Highly gifted, my jacket's thrifted. Watch me get a pattern shifted, just acting different. Living in my minutes, I'm catalytic. That's why they love to jack the style like it's on a Civic.
Hello and welcome to episode 17. We've called it Exams from Afar. So we have been speaking about assessments, but tackling online assessments, this can be quite a hurdle. We're going to arm you with some strategies to overcome this challenge. Dr. Botha is here to unpack this for us in episode 17.
So, excuse my ignorance, but because we're dealing in distance learning, how do we write exams?
Okay.
Like is there such a thing as a closed exam? Could I stumble on this thing, and then how do I do this?
So the modality of the offering being distance learning also mimics it out in the assessment and mimics the world of work also to an extent. So if it's a project, you'll be given sufficient notice of the time, sure. And it will be made available to you up front to have sufficient time on task to conclude the project. And if the project is experiential in nature, that it may require you to visit a business or two, other than only reading online text. So to examine a case, that appropriate time is given, you can complete it, you type it up, and you submit it in the system. Or you create, if it's photography, you'll take the pictures according to the requirements given, and you'll upload sure. those GIF files, by sure. way of example, sure. into the system.
Right.
So, long short form questions and tasks and research papers is the same manner. You'll upload them into the system, we'll grade them, and the grade will be released to you sure. with the marking grid and the memorandum to evaluate where you've done well and where you have not done well, and why you've not done well, or if you've done well, why it's 100%.
Sure.
So for invigilated assessments,
yes.
There are the two types, the closed book and the open book. So in certain, for example, accounting modules, you need the tax references
right.
or the certain tax tables. However, that's then declared, and that's then declared what is allowed at the event. They transpire in two ways. Mm-hmm. One is you'll either write them at the support center.
Okay.
So by implication, if it's an invigilated assessment, you won't see the assessment up front. It's not a project where you see the questions and the purpose of the project and to
sure.
design the project.
Sure.
You'll only see a sample paper that you can do the exercises to create the correct expectations. And then the paper will appear according to a timetable that's presented in the teaching plan. On the week of the 16th, the morning of the 9th, this is where
I'll know date, time,
up front.
So I can plan, tell my boss.
Absolutely.
I need this day. Okay.
Absolutely.
So it'll be in there, and then I have to go to the center, and then I will write it like a traditional
yes.
invigilated test.
So all the assessments and all the assessment dates for every module is disclosed for a year up front, two
Beautiful.
semesters up front, so that you can plan the calendar Fantastic. For work
yeah.
and for family and your commitments to your study up front. So all those days, the call it as the wrapper, the assessment strategy, the package of assessments and the weightings and the nature
yeah.
is also declared up front
yes.
to you.
Yes,
to say
yes.
this the module in business management will have strategy 1. Strategy 1 is X, Y, Z, and the module in advertising will have strategy 2, X, Y, and Z.
Sure.
But the due dates will always correlate to the semester, so it's not randomized. So meaning summatives will always be due from week 16 to 17 and 18, and formatives 1 and 2 will always be due in weeks 5 and 6 and
right.
10 and 11.
Okay.
So that windows is fixed.
Sure.
It's the type that now comes at play.
Sure.
So that's all declared up front and rostered up front. So for the high stakes invigilated assessment, there's two routes. The one is where you can sit at the support center.
Okay.
So you'll arrive then at your support center the morning of week 18 for 9 o'clock and prior, and the rules is given to you up front. So you're early, you sit, and they make the assessment available. They invigilate, they fill in the report, they take the script from you. The other format is where you're allowed to do certain of those papers at home using an additional software application we make available as an invigilator via your cell phone.
Right.
So that is because again it's fitness for purpose. Sure. What type of assessment and what within the assessment, around the assessment, is fit for purpose for this module, for this qualification. So there's a range of these. So then it becomes a high stakes moment where you at home will log in 9 o'clock. The paper is there in the learning management system. You switch on the software that we monitor for the invigilation purposes. You complete the assessment. Online is one format. Again, it branches out. It could be that the request is to do it online, and you hit submit, and by 11 o'clock, if it's cut off, it will cut off only what's completed.
Right.
Or the alternative could be you log in 9 o'clock, you see the assessment, and you're required to hand type it out, and you then scan it in via the software application on the cell phone. And in a certain window period, you scan it in, and then you upload it into the LMS. And again, the review processes from the software application is very similar to what we'll do with the reports from a sit-down, an in-person sit-down. The in-person sit-down meaning you arrive at the support center, you handed the script.
Yeah.
The invigilator completed a report. We review that report when we do the grading. And similar, the software if the software application is used, we review the data from the software application to determine whether all the rules that were set were adhered to. And then in addition, assessments also attract anti-plagiarism requirements, but there's software in the LMS that allows you, where the assessment is required to adhere to it, that you go through the motions via the learning management system to issue yourself a plagiarism report that appends with your submission. And obviously, if you can see the report is not favorable, you can redo the work before you submit.
Okay.
So again, the idea there is to say, don't plan to submit research papers or open book work the minute before the closing, the cut-off in the system, so you have enough time to make corrections and use it as an informal formative moment, the outcome from the plagiarism and the detection software to say, I should improve in certain areas, go redo the work.
I mean, we are going to speak very often and a lot about these moments and how we prepare for them. And part of the reason why we do that is because we want you to succeed, but we also understand the anxiety that comes around them. And so, at Boston Broadcast, we've spoken lots about how we're going to make sure that we have wellness conversations and how to prepare for these things and how to set yourself up for these things. But I think what you've given us is a really nice sort of theoretical understanding of what they are and why they exist and how I'm going to approach them.
So in addition to that, to jump to supplementaries.
Yes. What is a supplementary?
All formal formatives and summatives attract an appeal window also.
Okay.
So before we get to supplementaries, there's an appeal window to say a grade was released. You see the grade, you see the marking, you see the memo, and if you're in disagreement, you can appeal. And the purpose is simply for that, yes, we don't get it 100% all of the time correct. Maybe a grader did miss your answers to question 4 and it was not graded. It happens from time to time, but that's
and we've got to have a process for that.
That's part of the process to say that we can solve that. Provide you recourse to solve that seamlessly. Or maybe you think differently of how you responded, and provide us the rationale and let's review it. So there's always an appeal window. So part of the teaching plan and the roster, the dates for the assessments is given, the dates for the results release is given, the dates for the appeal submission windows is given, and the dates for the appeal outcomes is also given. So that's all predictable, it's all in the path. Wednesday morning you must wake up, get ready for your appeal by 5 o'clock, and then you wait 2 days and then you'll get the outcome. Again, that you can plan around it because that's the structure and it's predictable and it's reliable. So similar to, so now we arrive at summatives. So summatives attract a supplementary opportunity. And the purpose for the supplementary opportunity, and those windows are also calendarized, they are all published up front. The supplementary window allows for 2 or 3 circumstances. You did not perform well in summative 1. You did not meet the final grade. You need to do better. You automatically go to a supplementary event. And that's par for course in that should be par for course in higher education as a principle, that this single moment that came, I was a bit more anxious than I should have been.
Sure.
Or I balanced everything and the public transport failed me, I was late. So I didn't have the full opportunity to actually complete the full paper, so you couldn't grade all my responses.
So are you saying that is when the summative event itself didn't go well?
Yes.
Okay, so in other words, I needed to get 60% weighting across the board. I needed to get 60% in my summative, and I pulled a 54.
Yeah.
Okay, and now I've given another shot.
Or you scored a 40, yeah.
Sure. So, is there a threshold on that? Is there?
No.
Okay.
There's no. The principle is it's open. You complete the first attempt, you get a second attempt.
Beautiful.
And it's simply to say, again, also think of the nature of distance learning. Take stock.
Yeah, love it.
The outcome of the results were given, you appealed or you didn't appeal, the appeal wasn't upheld, you need a better grade, take another opportunity. Take a breather, look back at the semester, look back at the content, re-prepare and go through it. Because again, even the summative moment is a formative moment in itself.
Sure.
You've undergone the summative now,
Sure.
you realize it's more challenging than what you weren't as prepared as you should have been.
Yeah.
And now you get a last chance as a supplementary.
Sure.
We said at the onset, the supplementary serves two functions.
Yes.
The one is I outright didn't do well.
Sure.
The other one is I could not make the time to attend the summative one for an emergency reason.
Okay.
So something happened and I couldn't arrive at the venue, or something happened at home and I couldn't log in online. Load shedding, as an example. Never use that ever, but
It doesn't
yeah.
work.
But it is, so it provides then another release valve to say you could not make the main event.
Sure.
So go into the supplementary as your attempt.
Those and just to lay it out there so that we have it, it's when I can't perform this, when I can't do or submit the summative, it's because I have a valid emergency that has happened that I can then prove to the institution that it happened.
Yes.
So in other words, what we're not saying is that the supplementary is not, sure, I'm not ready, I'm not going to write the summative, I'm going to write this up.
Yeah. No, you need a valid reason, because the journey is still the journey.
Yes.
And the reason for requiring the valid reason is the journey is designed to say in the end of the day, to attest you have an award issued in your name. And that award has certain rigors required within it for you to adhere to. So that's one of the examples of the testimony of when they print on your award with all rights and privileges. It's because you went through a predetermined process and you adhere to those requirements and rules, and therefore we can attest the following.
Sure.
So, but a valid reason, like an emergency or
which you got horribly sick the night before and the doctor has given you something.
Absolutely, yeah. Or a family emergency. There's always, there are good reasons, valid, and that's the valve.
Sure.
So over the last 17 episodes, we've been speaking about Boston, about its future, about assessments. But you might be asking yourself this question: how do my studies apply to the real world? Well, that's what episode 18 is all about. Work integrated learning. We're going to speak about it next.